Bueno, buenos días. Bienvenidos a la sala Barahona 4. Vamos entrando aquí a esta sala. Las últimas, esperemos que no. Las personas que vais entrando. Por favor, tomen asiento. Vamos a presentar a la siguiente conferenciante, muy interesante. Creo que vale la pena, mucho la pena, estar presentes hoy aquí, en este momento. Voy a presentar al señor Muhammad Kusti, que es Senior Technical Advisor del National Council for Occupational Safety and Health, y su charla consiste en el estrés térmico ocupacional, desafíos y soluciones en un mundo en calentamiento. Creo que nos va a explicar aspectos muy interesantes, muy importantes, que además del país de donde proviene, pues creo que todavía con más razón. Recibamos con un fuerte aplauso al señor Muhammad Kusti.
Gracias. Do my presentation in English, but thank you for having us and inviting us. My background is occupational medicine, and I'm here on behalf of the Saudi National Council for Occupation Safety and Health to talk about heat stress and occupational conditions in workplaces. So the first question is always why? Why is occupational heat stress a big deal? Why is it a problem? Why does it matter? First, we know by the last 15 or 20 years of data that there is a rise in global temperature and climate change. Some areas are used to it, but now they're even having warmer condition, and some areas never had warm condition, now suffering from warm condition. An example, I practice in the USA, and Alaska is one of the states that's always cold. Now they're having heat waves. They've never had heat waves before, so it's a little bit of shock for them. Also, another reason why this matters is that there's increased burden on manual outdoor laborers, and with the PPE, the personal protective equipment wearing, and then some processes require indoor intense heat jobs, whether in melting metal or molding new types of metal to build spaceships and firefighters jets and different type of machinery that requires different techniques that requires a lot of high temperature. This wasn't the case 10 or 15 years ago. Also, the main reason is there's a significant impact on morbidity, productivity, and workplace safety, of course. So I'm occupational medicine, so I will talk a little bit from the occupational medicine perspective. We always look at the net heat load. So not just looking at the weather or the temperature of the room. There's the net heat. So what clothes, how many layers they're wearing. If they're working near a furnace and then they're wearing all silver, that is added more heat stress to the net heat load. The environmental, the weather, the PPEs all add up. So sometimes it may not be too bad from a temperature. Maybe it's 85 degrees or 35 Celsius degrees, and the added on PPEs and clothing and layer can make it worse. So that has to be taken into consideration. There is known physiological strain on the body when the net heat load is high. That impacts cognitive and motor. It also, we know that it increases accidents. It impacts the musculoskeletal injuries. It impacts the cardiovascular disease and also people with kidney disease. There are a lot of people living with different levels of kidney disease that a little bit of dehydration can impact their body and hemodynamics very quickly. We always talk about the significance of hydration, acclimation, fitness, and comorbidities. One of the topics of hydration is not just hydrating during the work, it's pre-hydrating before, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. And hydration is not just water, it's not just fluid, it has to be fluid and electrolytes. So there's different types of heat-related illness. first level is the heat cramps. It's triggered by you're out in an environment that's hot, lots of sweating and electrolytes. You lose electrolytes to your sweat, and that causes a little bit of muscle spasms, usually in the legs and the abdomen area. It's usually benign. You can fix it very easily. We also see heat rash. Heat rash, as you can see here, sometimes is mistaken as dermatitis, either contact dermatitis or allergic dermatitis, but it is a skin irritation from the heat, and it's due to blocking of the sweat ducts under the heat and humidity. So this is a very common thing. In our occupational medicine clinic, I see this a lot, especially workers who work in manufacturing settings, steel, aluminum, other metal manufacturing. The next one up is the heat syncope, fainting. And there's more common in unacclimatized workers, so new workers in the environment, or workers brought from different location. Maybe they live in the mountains, and now you bring them into a sea level work environment. That heat and temperature, the net heat load is too much for them. So usually you see it with those workers. The fainting happens because of a trigger of events. The first thing is that the peripheral vasodilation, so the vessels on your skin start to dilate because the body thinks if I bring the blood to the surface, I can get rid of the heat. So now all the blood is being moved from muscles and internal to the skin. We know the skin is the largest organ in the human body. And this shunt happens to affect the blood return to the heart. So we all know that you need enough volume of blood to go to the heart to pump so that it goes to the brain and to other vital organs. What happens here is that cardiac return is less, and therefore the cardiac output is low. And that leads to less blood going to the brain, less oxygen, you feel lightheaded, and then sometimes fainting. Heat exhaustion is when your core temperature starts to change and your core temperature starts to go up. And this is not temperature like the surface temperature like with the heat gun. This is core temperature. The body starts to perfuse the sweat, lots of sweating, heart rate goes up, persons start to have fatigue, nausea. We talked about the nervous system, so you start having weakness, dizziness. Then the skin becomes cold and pale. You can see somebody looking very pale, very white, and it's like, what's wrong with you? And I've seen these people. They say, I don't feel good, and then they go on the side and they throw up, they have vomiting. And then that's really, at this point, that person is already in the process of having a serious condition. So intervention needs to happen very rapidly, resting, cooling, rehydration, and escalate to a higher level of care if needed. Heat stroke is a fatal case. Sometimes it's exertional, sometimes it's not exertional. This is when the core body temperature is above 40 degrees and all the system starts to malfunction, including the skin. The brain loses the ability to make the vessels dilate, so people stop sweating, so you no longer have that cooling effect by the sweat, and the skin becomes dry and damp. And as I mentioned, this is high mortality if no treatment. It requires immediate rapid cooling, ice water submission or ice baths or cooling baths, and obviously emergency care. They usually get IV rehydration. So the risk and vulnerable group usually are outdoor workers, workers with use of a lot of personal protective equipment, healthcare professionals. When they go to tropical areas to do volunteer work, sometimes they have a lot of issues because they're still not acclimated. I mentioned earlier, indoor manual laborers is another thing. Sometimes there's not enough ventilation or air exchange. You heard earlier the smart building technology. It's not available everywhere. It's just a fancy Siemens building, but most buildings don't have that. I wish our building had that. That would be nice. There was a survey done. One of our colleagues, Dr. Jason Lee, he's a leader in the heat science and heat-related illness in the workplace. He did a survey among workers using PPEs in Asia and found very negative attitude and practice towards PPE despite people's knowledge of heat stress, which caused more problems, more incidents, and more issues. There's a significant functional impact at work. I mentioned earlier the cognitive and motor. So it's not, people tend to make more mistakes. They are not focused. The motor, they start feeling weak. They feel dizzy. There's a lot of impact to this heat. And even before it becomes the serious condition. So like the attention, memory, motor control, postural balance, these are all increasing accident risk. This is very relevant, obviously, for critical tasks such as operating machinery, working near machinery or mobile equipment, welding at heights or in confined spaces, and any job that requires precision. So it's not, like we mentioned, the doctors operating in a tropical area. This heat does impact their cognitive and motor function. Heat management is typically straightforward, but we like to start with putting protocols for acclimation. Acclimation does require gradual exposure over 1 to 2 weeks. So that usually doesn't happen practically. People are just brought in, but if possible, it is good to have that acclimation build up, and that builds up their physiological tolerance. Hydration and electrolyte, balanced fluid intake, so not just water. It has to be water and electrolytes. It also has to happen before. So if you're already at the workplace and you're thirsty, or you have concentrated urine, you're already dehydrated. So now you're already at high risk. This has to happen before you start the work, and that's part of the planning. Ice slurry ingestion, like slush machines, I've seen them in some plants and some workplaces. They tend to, workers like them and they use them and they do help, and especially before going to their shift. Cooling intervention, we have a lot of devices that that affects the head, neck, and face cooling. The trick here is to try to get the core body regulated and to prevent the core body temperature from going up. There is, in the last conference in Riyadh, we saw this new technology where they use these vests. You wear them and then they do cool your core body temperature, and they're very thin. So new technologies are coming up helping with that. Engineering control is always good. Having a lot of shaded area, increasing ventilation, misting fans, so not just the fans, but fans with mist. Obviously, air condition when available or when practical. And then scheduling rest breaks and shift timing and modifying the workload when the temperatures are changing. Training and monitor, obviously that's teach people how to recognize their symptoms. So as soon as they start feeling those very, very early symptoms like the heat exhaustion or just the impact of the heat, they recognize that. They go, maybe I should go sit in a cold area, eat banana, get my electrolytes and fluids, and that way they prevent them from going. Understand that some workplaces need a buddy system, so you have to have 2 people watching over each other, making sure that they're both safe. A lot of people wear wearables that can monitor their heart rate. So if they are trained to notice if my heart rate starts to go up, then something is up. I need to go get checked or intervene before they faint or have a syncope. Using the wet bulb globe temperature unit, not just looking at the temperature. You have to look at the humidity, the temperature, and all aspects to identify if there's a high-risk workplace or not. Global facts about heat. We know that There are about $361 billion that can be saved globally if occupational safety health measures are implemented and prevent heat-related illness. About 9 out of 10 workers have experienced some type of heat or some level of heat-related illness outside of a heat wave. And then 8 out of 10 have excessive heat issues and required medical issues outside of the heat wave. And we know that at least 26 million people live with chronic kidney problems, which is aggravated by these heat-related illness events. I want to talk a little bit about the role of regulatory bodies and heat protection. So we look at the occupational heat stress as a predictable event, and it's preventable. You know, a lot of people talked about, you know, the Vision Zero, that every injury and illness can be prevented. This is one of them. Heat and temperature is not a mystery. Everybody knows tomorrow and the date, the forecast, you know that it's hot, you know how hot the workplace is. We have a lot of tools that can check that. So we look at this as a predictable, preventable issue, but yet a lot of countries lack the enforcement standard to protect the workers in the workplace. So we think that strong regulation framework can ensure employers take these proactive measures to prevent it, especially with workers who are low wage workers, undocumented workers, high exposed sectors like construction, agriculture, delivery, manufacturing. So one of the things I wanted to mention here is, and we consider this a global best practice, the new Saudi Arabia no work under the sun regulation. This was enforced, not allowing workers to work under the sun between the hours of 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., typically in the hot months of the year, so from mid-June until mid-September. So right now it's in place. This is enforced by Ministry of Human Resources and Social Development. It applies to all outdoor workers. It's monitored by inspection, and there are penalties for non-compliance. It has been credited already with reducing many heat-related incidents and protecting workers and migrant labor population who are often at high risk. We know that in Saudi Arabia, it's a hot country, and the medical system is well trained because for many decades they have been treating people with heat-related illness during the Hajj or pilgrimage season. So this is not new for the medical system, but the new part here is how to prevent it from happening at the workplace. Saudi Arabia is a growing country. If you haven't visited, you should. They have all these mega projects and these amazing cities that are built. So there's a lot of construction. There's a lot of outdoor work happening. And this is one of the areas that the country is trying to be proactive in preventing incidents from happening. In addition to that, the National Council for Occupational Safety and Health launched several advisory initiatives. One of them is the Saudi Arabia Kingdom, Saudi Arabia heat map. And the council aimed to release this as an application on your phone that enables workers to view temperature levels at their work site. They can look at the humidity level, they can look at the wind speed, and they can look at how the temperature is going to change so they can better schedule the workplace and have the workplace adapt to the temperature and weather. The app will also include other features such as insight from experience in several countries in the field. The National Council has also launched the Heat Stress and Control Method, and this was an event held at the last conference in May of 2025, the 7th International Conference of Occupational Safety and Health, or GOSH7. For those who attended, you may have seen this event. It's very, very interesting because they brought a lot of occupational heat experts from all over the world, and they all sat down and discussed. The council is currently working on disseminating daily awareness messages throughout the periods of outdoor work ban during peak sunlight hours. And the messages are being shared in multiple languages because, as you may have heard, the Secretary General yesterday, they mentioned that we have more than 120 different labor languages or different background working in Saudi Arabia. So it is a challenge. And in addition to that, the National Council of Occupational Safety have also launched the concept of Thermal Work Level Indicator, or TWL. These work zones, procedures, and measures that allows rest and work, schedule, drinking water. So this is a really nice guideline for employers to look at and plan how to schedule their workplace during hot climate environment. I mentioned I work in the US. There's currently no, this is just more of a benchmarking slide, but there's currently no federal OSHA heat standard as of today. There was one that they started working on in 2021, but then it never got passed, it never got finalized. OSHA does have the general duty clause, which says that you have to protect your workers and provide a safe work environment, but it's very vague and it's really depend on everybody's interpretation. I see this every day. There's millions of outdoor and indoor heat exposed workers that are vulnerable, and you know that the whole discussion about climate change is also a big issue in the US. There are other countries that have similar heat related illness regulation, but nothing as robust as what Saudi Arabia launched. This is what we use currently in the US. This is kind of like a graphic from NOAA, and it's by the US National Weather Service. It does provide guidance of using single value hot weather and give you time based on how much time and humidity and puts you at different risk, and tells you if you're at like the orange or the red, then you should move the workers indoor and have more rotating shifts. And it does help to a certain degree, but it's not enforced, and it's all about the employer can choose to use this or not. So the conclusion and take-home message is that heat stress is a growing occupational hazard, and with the climate change and how things are going, we're going to see more and more challenges. It requires medical, managerial, and behavioral strategies. Workers and employers need to understand the pathophysiology to enable early identification and treatment. We need to leverage the new research in cooling, such as the core body, the vest that does the core body cooling, training and planning for acclimatization, policy translation for effective mitigation, and obviously, as I mentioned, the important role of government entities and regulators. For those who didn't attend the last year conference, I have a short video, 2-minute video, just to show you highlights of the conference. So hopefully it will play.
This has been an incredible conference. People from all over the world sharing views and experiences. The organization has been really good.
I'm very impressed with the way everything's being organized and conducted here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It's not the first time that I come to their global conference on occupational safety and health, and every time it's even better than the first. From the exhibition to the actual conference panels and technical discussions, there's a lot to learn. The quality of the people and the caliber of the people speaking on the panels and joining the conferences have been excellent. I'm also astounded at the international nature of the conference. So we're seeing people from different continents, representing workers, representing employers, the private sector, different sectors, and they're all very interested in safety and health, and they're all coming here with a lot of interest.
The term global fits really well in this conference, I think. There's a lot of people from around the world. I'm looking forward to seeing even more in the coming years, but truly is a hub for OSH. and I think it could be an incredible opportunity to make it even bigger in the coming years.
If you look at the exhibition, I find they have so many great examples that are so innovative, bringing artificial intelligence, automation, robotization, and digitalization to these discussions.
The hackathon this year has been something that I've never experienced before, so it brought students together to think about ideas and propose to address OSH issues. I think it had a lot of unique ideas.
I think it's the place where they really want to be able to be ahead of the times. The commitments are growing, the engagements are wider, so I think it's a great place to be to move the area of safety and health forward.
So that's exciting. Last year, or actually this year. Next year, bring out your phones and scan this QR code if you're interested. We are thinking this next year is going to be even bigger and better. And this is my reference slide, and then thank you. Appreciate you having me here.